Welcome to the instructional videos for the Consolidation Orthographic Drawing stream. In this video we will continue working through the principles and process of architectural orthographic drawing, focusing on the scope and scale of the representation of detail. One of the big issues when producing a set of orthographic drawings is to determine who the drawings are for, and by extension, what do they need to see in the drawings we produce. Building contractors, for example, will be interested in a reasonable amount of detail so that they can understand how a building is made, but perhaps for clients or a more general audience, the aim is to depict the organizational and spatial qualities and relationships. Adding too much or too little detail can be distracting for the target audience and can create confusion. There are no strict rules governing how we pitch our drawings, and it comes down to judgment and trial and error to determine the appropriate style for different circumstances. Here is an example of a raw section drawing of a house for a cold temperate climate. In this case, we are referring to the drawing as a raw drawing because it is not complete. It does not have notes, titles, or any coordination information. What we see here is a drawing that depicts a high level of detail that would be appropriate for a building contractor. It shows what is between the wall, floor, and ceiling surfaces to make explicit how things are to be put together. This next version of the same drawing strips out all the detail between the finished surfaces to focus instead on the spatial volume. This drawing will not be useful for a builder, as detail describing the construction is missing. However, the reduction of clutter will make it easier for clients and other lay people to more easily understand the design intentions of the proposed building. The space between the external surfaces and the inside surface is often referred to as the poche. The poche space includes all the construction elements that are hidden from view by the finishes and surfaces of the building. It includes the void spaces hidden from view and can sometimes include secondary or utility spaces are not otherwise occupied. In this instance, we are trying to more clearly define the poche by increasing the line thickness that defines the internal and external surfaces. In this next version of the drawing, we have highlighted the poche even more by applying a uniform tone to the poche. The combination of heavier line weight and applying a hatch has made the poche more visible and helps to identify the spaces of the proposal more clearly. In this example, we have showed a similar relationship between construction-focused drawing compared to a design-focused drawing that emphasizes the poche. The drawing is representative of a small, simple timber frame building, similar to the timber frame buildings that were measured as part of the measured drawing exercise. The version of the drawing on the left shows the full construction, and on the one on the right represents the spatial volume or poche. The detail of the ground, the framing elements, and in this case the ceiling, have been simplified on the version on the right so that we show only what can be visibly seen and not things that are hidden from view. It's like the one on the left we have X-ray vision, but the one on the right we do not. Here is another version of the same building, but this time there is no ceiling. This makes the roof structure visible from the inside of the building, and therefore becomes part of the expression and visibility of the building. Hence, in the design version of the drawing on the right, we would show the structure in this instance. The other thing to note is that there is an unusual detail resolution shown at the bottom of the weatherboard clad wall. In this instance, the inner timber lining stops short of the bottom and the base of the structure is visible. This is to allow inspection for termites and other maintenance. The issue becomes, though, how do we define the poche? In this instance, we have made a judgment call to cut it off one board above the bottom. The reasoning is that we would only feasibly be able to see this much unless we use special equipment to look up the cavity. There's a tricky bit of judgment needed here when we are making a set of measured drawings. We need to ask ourselves, what do we need the drawing for? Is it simply to show the building for posterity? Or are we measuring it so that we can make changes to the building? Especially when there is construction hidden from view, determining exactly what is going on within the poche space is difficult unless we use more invasive techniques and open up the finished surfaces. We can make educated judgments as to how the construction works by interpreting what we can see alongside our knowledge of common building practice. Often when we draw up a measured building, we end up making some assumptions about the construction when we make our drawings. If we needed to use the drawings for both redevelopment and representation, the strategy would be to prepare the constructed set of drawings showing as much as we know about the construction, and then tracing over these construction drawings to create a final representation set. In effect, we would have two sets of drawings, but in reality we always construct our final set of drawings from a rough set that we have drawn up earlier. When we produce a set of orthographic drawings in CAD, we are always drawing and modelling at full scale. It is only when we produce the final sheet drawings that we position and scale our drawings. We in effect use the same base model to produce drawings on paper at different scales. Whilst this makes things easy in one sense, on another it creates a different problem, because without special filtering, the detail of the CAD model can produce quite unattractive and difficult to read drawings. In contrast, when we construct a set of ruled and scaled drawings by hand, we encounter a different problem. Because we draw the building to scale straight on the page, the thickness of the pencil and the limits of the drawing resolution makes representing some elements difficult. If we tried to draw the intricate detail of a screen at a scale of 1:100 for example, it would be almost impossible, as the pencil could not produce a fine enough line. Therefore, when we draw by hand, we need to make a judgment as to what is an appropriate level of detail at different scales of drawing. Here is our earlier simple timber building shown in plan, section and elevation. Though there is still a reasonable amount of detail in the drawing, the very small detail is left out, as it would be very difficult to show. We can still see the arrangement of the batten screen, the timber elements that make the seat, and the weatherboards and corrugated metal sheeting, but they are drawn in a simple manner to avoid cluttering the drawing with additional lines. In this drawing as well, it is also important to note that we have shown the title block, in this instance, running down the right-hand margin of the page. When we produced a title block in the instructional video, Details and Drawing Coordination, we had a title block running along the bottom of the page. Both methods are widely accepted, and the intention here is to illustrate a different approach. The main thing to keep in mind is that you need to plan your sheet layout in advance and choose a method that best suits the set of drawings you want to produce. The main rule or best practice is that once you have chosen a title block location, you would need to keep it the same through the whole drawing set. Here we have increased both the scale of the drawing as well as the resolution of the drawing. It is a reasonably straightforward assumption that as the scale of the drawing gets bigger, the amount of detail in the drawing increases. When producing a set of detailed drawings, it is not simply a case of getting, for example, your 1:50 scale drawings and then enlarging them on the photocopier or scanner. Sure, the drawing will be bigger, but the line weight will also get thicker, the mistakes will get larger, and the drawing becomes less interesting, as with a larger drawing we are anticipating more information. In this example of the simple timber building, on the left we have the ceiling, and on the right we show the same without the ceiling. The added detail is subtle, and because of the screen resolution on the computer, it is difficult to show faithfully the changes on the original drawing. However, the added details include aspects such as the detail of the rainwater discharge, the detail of the rainwater downpipe fixing, the division of the timber slats on the seat, and the drip edge on the sill capping. When we produce detailed drawings, it is good to coordinate and relate them across complementary drawing projections. Here we have the section of the timber pavilion with the corresponding elevation fragment and plan fragment to the right and below. The plan is shown at the corner so we can see how the elements in detail resolve at the junctions and intersections, which are always the tricky parts of the building. The added detail in the elevation includes showing the ground surface in more detail, the detail of the weatherboards, rainwater downpipe fixing, and the edge of the corrugated metal roof sheeting. Though subtle, this added level of detail helps explain the material and construction character of the building and comes closer to how we would experience the building in real life. When we produce detailed part plans, sections and elevations, we need to reference these detailed drawings back to the main set of orthographic drawings. The referencing system used are termed callouts. Basic drawing coordination allows us to navigate between plans, sections and elevations of the same scale, with callouts working over the top to direct us to the sheets which show the project details. Returning to our detailed drawing sheet, you can see that each drawing has a unique title and number and a cross-reference in the circle to the right of the drawing title. The drawing number in the circle cross-references back to the original general scale drawing that the detail was derived from. If we return to the general scale drawing set, we need to highlight the area of the drawing that is shown in more detail on the detailed drawing sheet. This is shown with an enclosing rectangle around the part of the drawing that corresponds to the detailed drawing. Note that we have rounded the corners of the bounding box so that it does not get confused with the other drawing geometry. Attached to the bounding box is a coordinating reference that directs you to the sheet number and drawing number of the detail. The upper half of the hemisphere states the detailed drawing number, and the lower part of the hemisphere references the sheet number that the drawing is located on. When we include the callouts on our drawing, it is important that they do not compete with the other drawing information. Maintaining a clear graphic style, using a crisp but lighter line weight, as well as techniques such as rounding the corners, all helps to reduce drawing clutter. This ends the representation of detail instructional in the consolidation series of the architectural orthographic drawing workshops. Please make sure to follow up with the other complementary instructionals in the consolidation series, and thanks for your time.